This was in Germany. This is what I was doing in Germany. And he did end up getting first place. There was another orc player with Tim Schneider. Shout out to you. I believe he was playing Boyz. But let's take a look at Florian Pal's list. So he has Dr. Green Crump. It's the name of his list. We have Big Mech in Mega Armor. He did pay for Ruckus Warcaller because this is a Green Tide list. Now you guys know I love Green Tide. Probably my favorite just feeling of playing Orks is just the way I started playing Orks. But I will say I wasn't necessarily sold on the Big Mech with Ruckus Warcaller as in like a necessary tool for the Green Tide, but I do think he is a viable tool. So I like to see that he made an appearance. Then we have 3 Painboys. I think you do a great time enjoying your boys when you have Painboys. Now I have seen a couple lists that don't have 3, can still have success. You're not totally biblically stuck to 3 Painboys, but it does make a huge difference. Even regenning D3 boys, 5 up Feel No Pain is ridiculous on something that have a 5 up invuln already. Bloodthirsty Belligerent, so your war boss can actually take down something like a Rhino more reliably. Trust me, that is actually more valuable than you would think. 2 units of war bosses and then 2 units of Weirdboyz. I think you really just need 1 unit of Weirdboy, but even if you go for 2 or 3, that's fine, as redundancy is key. And I think that the fact that you have 2 makes it so you can flex. As you can see, he has 5 units. He has 6 unit of boys, but one of them is a a minimum size unit, and the other 5 are max size units. So you can take a weird boy, put him in the small man unit. That way you can actually get into places when you do jump. Or you can just choose to put him in the big unit, enhancement guy. Enjoy that, because really that enhancement is game changing. Being able to get better rerolls and get in range of the enemy makes a huge difference with that. So we have 2 units of Gretchen, followed by 1 big unit of Meganobs with the twin kill saws. Love twin kill saws. Love the big unit of Meganobs. You are wanting to pay for the difference of 6 to 5, because you would hate to run out of guys. Just one guy to the last wound, and then now the leader has nothing to be the leader of, right? Then we have 2 units of Stormboys, because you need something to score. One thing I want to shout out, if you see this for and let us know, maybe tactical fix. I would say I can see him having just enough stuff here to play fix, let's say cleanse and deploy, but it does rely on you keeping the big Mac from getting touched. It does rely on your 10-man unit of boys to go out there and deploy for you, and or your Stormboys and one of those Gretchen units to do it, because you need to do it every turn, and the boys will be doing your cleansing. So just keep in mind, if you're doing fix and you're making a Green Tide list, you need enough stuff there so you can deploy at least 4 times in that one game. As yes, you are bogging down the primary, but you do still need to keep scoring secondaries so that there's not that late game swing, the last turn games of 15 and 15 for the enemy, causing you to end up losing that game. So that's my strong advice when you're playing the Green Tide. And shout out to Pal Warpig for becoming a member. Whoa, let's go, Pal Warpig. I see you out here, and we're doing that 3,000K membership giveaway for battle combat patrols. So I'm glad you're here. And shout out to the Wicked Joe's 10 Wall Tactics gifted membership. Whoa, for what Wicked Joe. Now, like I just said, any of you that get that, you should be hopeful that you end up getting one of the 2 combat patrols that we're end up raffling. We're end up raffling the old one and the new one, which is the Beast Snagger Boys. So shout out to Wicked Joe for doing that. We appreciate the support. And that's a big deal. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you, and it means a lot, as we use that to make the channel better for all you get. And yeah, Zed got one. So that's what's up, Zed. And you're new around here. So this is his list. Now let's take a look at his win path. As I like to say, win path is always quite important. We have right here. Sorry guys, a little brain fart. We have his first matchup, which sadly yet excitingly is a fellow orc player, right? So I only say sadly because we don't want to see the Hunt's win rate just falling down for that. But if you're gonna lose to anybody, it's another orc, right? Because orcs are truly never beaten. So this is gonna be a review of the Hunt list as well. So we have Proper Killy, which I think is arguably 2 best of their enhancements, especially against Beast Boss. The damage 3 at Dev Wounds is freaking awesome. Glory Hog and Shirley as a Squid God. Glory Hog, so you can get that 9-inch scouting potential, and then you get Shirley as a Squid God, so you get that built-in -1 to wound as you miss Hearted Nails when you played Warhorde, right? 2 units of Beast Snagger Boys, because he did have 2 Beast Bosses, followed by 2 trucks, 1 Gretchen unit, 1 Commando unit, 1 3 units of Squighog Boys, but one of those Squighog Boy units is simply a 3-man unit, and then 2 units of Storm Boys, followed by 1 unit of War Bikers. So I do think what's going to be interesting about this is you can already see with Florian's list that he doesn't have any vehicles. So what is the hunt going into? Well, the hunt is going to look for your Warlord, right? And actually, you want to take a look at where his Warlord was when we did that. His Warlord was, which one of these guys was the Warlord? One of his Weirdboyz, which meant he can keep it out of a targeting range and end up just not giving him the Warlord, so you actually can't do all the hunt abilities. So that would suck. Beast Snaggle Boys are nice into other boys, but not if the other boys have a 5-up Feel No Pain on top of their 5-up Invuln. Kind of funny how that works. The boys end up kind of having the advantage there because it ends up being a 6-up armor and a 6-up Invuln versus a 5-up and a 5-up, even if they're wounding on 5s and you can reroll wounds. Commandos, in this case, if you end up positioning them poorly, you could just be giving one of those green tide units a big leap pad forward, as if they make the charge onto the commando unit, fill up that objective, and box out Squighog Boys and other Beast Snaggle Boys from getting on the primary. It can end up being a detrimental factor. Squighog Boys, like I said, if you're re-rolling wounds into them, you can put 1 damage shots just enough into them, or even something like the Mega Knobs. If they do get caught into a combat with them, surprisingly, the Mega Knobs aren't really that scared of Squighog Boys. This isn't a Mazarag leading this unit. These are just the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, and he's really not that killy. Therefore, a Mega Knob unit can totally withstand this. They would re-roll saving throws of 1, then they would simply regen and actually heal one of those Mega Knobs and eventually dwindle down the Squighog Boys on the non-wall turns. So shout out to that list. Then we have, which he did end up winning. What was that score? An 86-point win. So it wasn't like a super dive bomb, but it was a pretty successful list. And yeah, Commandos over Snick is kind of interesting. I like that people are doing that. I don't think there's really a bad case for running either Commandos or Snick route. Then in his second matchup, we have Khorans with the Hypercrypt Legion. So Hypercrypt are still very prevalent and important. So we have Katana the Nightbringer, Katana the Void Dragon, a Hexmark Destroyer, and a Plasmancer, followed by 1 unit of Destroyers, Deathmark, 2 units of Wraiths, 2 units of Destroyers, a Tombblade, 2 Doomsday Arcs, and a Monolith. Everybody knows a Monolith is super fun because for some reason, why wouldn't 20 warriors jump out of it after it's deep strikes right in front of you and then not care about what range they get into of you? Meaning, when the Monolith comes down, the warriors can follow him, get out within 3, I believe, or maybe it is 6 actually. Sorry, brain fart. And in that case, they don't really care about your limitations of, oh, you have to stay outside of 9. They can actually get closer. They can actually end up moving on to an objective for that reason and taking it from you, even if you're screening. So it's really annoying and tedious in that case. Of course, the Plasmancer getting them crit 5s is a big deal. And then the Hexmark Destroyer being able to assassinate all your characters. Sadly for them, you simply do not have the volume to kill a green tide with this sort of list. And you're really hoping that one turn the Monolith just ends up carrying, but simply it just doesn't have the points, the volume for that. And you take out on board control. So the green tide is a hard counter to something like that sort of Canoptic Hypercrypt list. So shout out to the Florian for winning that one, because all of us like seeing the downfall of the Necrons. Now we have Grey Knights, and I will be showing you a combo here that I think is good to bring to your attention, especially for bringing in Grey and Tide, but it is important in all the matchups. So we have Grey Knights with a Brother Captain Stern, a Brotherhood Librarian, Grandmaster Dread Knight, Strike Squad, Grey Knight Land Raider Redeemer, Green Knight Land Raider Redeemer, Dread Knight, and then another Dread Knight. So what I wanted to say is that this list doesn't have it. One of the other lists we're going to go cover, but the Castellan Crow / Purifier combo is something that's pretty solid into a Green Tide list. Now he doesn't have it. We will cover it in a bit. But Grey Knights also are one of those armies that do not want to actually contest with squads of boys that are just standing, taking OC in primary, taking Invulns 5 of Feel No Pain. They do end up running low on volume, and they hate all the space you're taking up. Of course, they do have 2-up armor saves across the table, but these Dread Knights are simply not out OCing or killing the boys at an acceptable rate. The Land Raider Redeemers as well. They wouldn't love to see the Mega Knobs with the Big Mech with the KFS, but it's one of those things that they have to choose. Am I going to try to kill those Big Mech and Mega Knobs, or am I going to put my volume of fire into the boys? In their case, it can be a bad call for both if they just end up making good saves in the Big Mechs, regenning some of their guys, tagging that Land Raider, and then slowly dragging it down. So it's a solid Grey Knight list. It's surprising because Grey Knight lists are going a bit into heavily armored and mechanized, and there are a few of them that are actually elite infantry. So keep that in mind to know their abilities. Of course, they have the ability to get up and run away from you if you get within 9 inches of them. So in this case, it's really behoove you to know that as an orc player and to use something like Formidable Cunning, where you get the battle round given to you for the charge bonus, and then you get the reroll charge on there, and you really try to tag that unit that's trying to get away from you. Or you can kind of bait the person and say, I know you want to run away here, I'm going to move closer over here. And then when you do end up moving closer into their second priority, their first priority, you end up using that ability, that combo instead, and still tagging the units that gets in the way. Of course, you don't shoot at them, because then they can also jump away from you. Those little tweaks and knowing that they can do that and screening them with all your bodies does make it a hard matchup for them. And then both of you guys are kind of just hoping that the dice go in one of your all's favor, and that was a 97-point win there. Wait, that was the list I was covering, right? Yeah, okay. Making sure I didn't misclick. As for his fourth matchup, we have Aeldari, Artarch Wayleaper, Farseer Skyrunner, the Visarch, and the Yavrin. You don't see no Avatar, Incarn, nothing like that. Guardians, 2 units, 3 units of Dark Reapers. This is those units that are looking to do high damage anti-tank weapons. If you're playing Dreadmob and Gorkanauts and Morganauts, they could be scared of that, but a Green Tide is not. Shadow Specters, 2 units of Skyweavers, which these guys would hate to see a bunch of Boyz as well. They're going to try to throw some Haywire cannons into them and then be like, dang it, I gotta charge you, and then they just get chewed up. Striking Scorpions, they think they could do melee, but not with unit of Boyz. 2 support weapons, Swooping Hawk, 3 of them. This is probably their most, counter Boyz units that they have, maybe the Tropes and the Warp Spiders, if they have the Flamers, which I don't think they do with these Death Spinners. Right now I'm having a brain fart on that. Should have checked that. But other than that, like I said before, running Green Tide with that many bodies and regenning, because you can use a ZP to regen, ends up being a problematic for something like Aeldari, where they're looking to do high value damage into them. And then doing high value damage to them, but not really getting their volume in there, right? And okay, thank you. Death Spinners are actually Flamers, so that's good to know. Okay. And also, one thing I wanted to point out that I almost miscalled was that, and I think he did this on accident. Let me look at the list real quick in case anybody's paying attention. He does have Brutal but Cunning here, but that's actually the one for regenning CP. Let me see. That's the one for regenning CP, and I'd like to think that maybe he misclicked, because Bloodthirsty Belligerence is already right here on this list, and you would normally think Bloodthirsty Belligerence with giving reroll advances for the unit, and reroll charges, and reroll charges would actually be better on a Weirdboy. But if he decides to put the Weirdboy with the Warboss and then do the jump, he gets both. It's just interesting that he put them on the Warboss. I just want to clarify that, because I misspoke earlier, and it's easy to mess those up with the Cunning Orc rules. So he does have the potential to jump in front of them later in the game, getting a nice reliable reroll charge with +2, +3 to the battle round, whatever it is. So it's actually pretty awesome for that, as Orcs have great strats in the Green Tide. Sorry, I wanted to pull that out. I was having a brain fart when I mentioned that the first time. So then we have his 5th matchup, which I thought was actually pretty fun, which he has the Adeptus Mechanicus in this. So with this Adeptus Mechanicus list, you can see that he has Canis Rex. We went over Canis Rex with his crit 5 pluses and having sustain across the table, good OC and good potential to kill high value targets. Something like a Meganob unit gets destroyed by Canis Rex if they can get to him. You do want to you do want your 4-up invuln to hopefully save you, and then you bring some guys back and you withstand his damage. But he had some other things on this list. So he has his Qatari Marshal. Oh, sorry. And this was the Qatari Core Court. So this is their elite basic battle line infantry, pretty much, detachment. Qatari Marshal, Techno Archaeologist, and another Techno Archaeologist. 1, 2, 3 units of Qatari Vanguard. Something to keep in mind is these Qatari Vanguard do actually have 3 shots at 18-inch ranges of anti-4+ infantry. So they do have some small arms fire that can actually bother boy units, as well as when you're on objective and you're close enough to one of these Qatari units, you take a -1 OC. So you do got to keep that in mind. Then we have a dedicated transport of a Dune Rider, 1, 2, 3 Sky Stalkers, followed by these sterilizers. So these guys are hoping with their talents, when a 10-man unit, to actually get volume of damage onto you as well. Infiltrators, and then last but not least, we have 3 3-man units of these Sakodian Dragoon laser Taz lasers. Let me show that to you guys real quick, as I'm sure most of us don't actually get to see too much Adeptus Mechanicus. So these guys are moving 10 inches, T7, 3-up armor save, 5-up invuln, 7 wounds, in a 2 OC. Interestingly enough, they do have a anti-walker 2+, lance, sustain 2, 4 attacks, but they are hitting on a 4+, strength 7, -2, 2 damage. Of course, the 2 damage is good for them into 5 of feel no pains. They're eligible to declare a charge even if they fall back. And when they charge, when they advance, so they can do it when they fall back, advance, they can still charge, and then you can actually try to regen CP on this. There are combos to that, but we're not going to go over everything, as Adeptus Mechanicus is one of those armies that is kind of niche, but I still wanted to bring that up so you guys knew what they were going against. Of course, you have the Lord Inquisitor Draxus, good against infantry, overall one of the most popular allied inquisitors, and then Canis Rex to go hard into your Mega Knobs. Now, this is a bit of hoping that the dice don't go against you, but you do have all the bodies killing potential into something like this, because none of this army has a good armor of contempt and none of them have great armor saves. Therefore, you are still killing this as a reliable enough rate. I always like to say that if you're playing something like a Green Tide, that you do want at least enough killing so that turn 4 and 5 the enemy isn't making a comeback on kills. But in this case, he definitely wasn't. But very fun to see. Very fun to see that Florian ended up having to go into Adeptus Mechanicus near the end of the round. So that Adeptus Mechanicus player was trying to prove everybody wrong. So shout out to Florian Pal for going 5-0 with the rise of the Green Tide. And using Big Mech with Ruckus Warcaller, because everybody's seen that was a thing. We'll see if GW tries to FAQ that and say that we shouldn't do that. I'm subject to believe that it was actually intended. Now, I will show his list one more time before we move on to our third list of the evening, which will be our final list. But he had the Big Mech with Ruckus Warcaller, 3 Painboys, a Warboss with Bloodthirsty Belligerent, which allows for reroll advances and reroll charges. And then he has the Cunning Brutal for CP farming, 5 max unit of Boyz, followed by 1 10-man unit of Boyz, 2 units of Gretchen, a max unit of Mega Knobs, 2 Storm Boyz, and then a basic Weird Boy alongside that. So of course he was thinking of different combos. Most of the time you see people put Bloodthirsty Belligerents on a Weird Boy himself. This makes me think that he was very much putting a Weird Boy, that second Weird Boy, in that unit, and then trying to use the Warbosses' durability to stop himself from being precisioned out and killed. That way he doesn't lose Bloodthirsty Belligerents, which some armies will do. Try to kill that Bloodthirsty Belligerents get. And then when you have the strat to actually give yourself the battle round to your charge roll, makes really good at taking initiative away from the enemy and jumping into someone's backfield, and then farming CP on top of the ground. It's kind of funny. He might have just had weird points for that because he had, because he was like, I'm just going to pay for that. So shout out to Florian Powell. Great job this weekend, going 5-0 with the Green Tide.
Let's get stuck in, lads!